If I could, this is Heather Higgins, pivot a minute here and go back to Putin. We have the challenge of the Ukraine. What would you counsel the president to do and with regards to Russia and the Ukraine, given the past history that we've seen in Crimea, et cetera? This is obviously a significant concern. He's canceled his one-on-one meeting with Putin, but what else?
Well, he may have some sidebar discussions with Mr. Putin, but I think he was right to cancel it under the circumstances. And I think that we just have to continue to be firm in our support for the country of the Ukraine, working together with the Europeans, show that we will not flinch or falter in the support we extend to the country of Ukraine, and make it clear that that's an important issue in the bilateral relationship between the United States and Russia.
Okay, and then if I could follow up, the other challenge we've got here is threading the needle between two allies, Turkey and Saudi Arabia. How would you counsel the president on that?
Oh, boy, that's a
thorny one.
That's a tough one, and that's been kind of a thorny situation for months now. And I'm afraid we're sort of like on a day-to-day, the whole situation is being looked at on a day-to-day basis because of this situation with respect to the murder of journalist Khashoggi.
I assume you don't want the U.S. to walk away from its partnership with the Saudis, right?
Well, I think that Mr. Pompeo and Mr. Mattis made that point strongly in their appearances before Congress. So has the president. I think in some respects the president has been saying what a lot of American presidents have thought before him, but he's just been more explicit about it, saying, look, we've got huge interests at stake with that country. And we don't want to, flush them down the tubes. And we've also got the question of our relationship with Iran, and we don't want to do anything with Saudi Arabia which might in some way give an advantage to the country of Iran. So it's a very delicate circle to square.
Yeah. Well, we are waiting. We're seeing some activity on the stage. We are waiting for the presidents of Mexico, Prime Minister of Canada, and President Trump to take to the podium and sign this USMCA deal. Do you see any risk that Congress, being the new Congress, in January tries to slow down this deal, Ambassador, from getting ratified?
Yeah, I suppose it's possible. I think earlier one of you commented that there is fast-track authority, and that Mr. Trumpka was pretty happy. I saw him the other day at a meeting out in Silicon Valley. I think they're pretty happy with that outcome. The fact that the content requirements for vehicles made in North America was raised from in the 60th percentile up into 70-something. I think there's enough in there. And I think Mr. Trumpka also knows that there's a huge volume of commerce between our two countries in both directions, and it's important that that continue.
Ambassador, I just want to point out that the narrative that's pushed by some in terms of President Trump being nothing but disruptive and not wanting deals. We have a relationship that is as strong, if not, now granted we have a new leader coming in Mexico, but as strong, if not stronger, in terms of Mexico and even Canada, despite the optics, despite the kind of back and forth in terms of words that you see. This is a three-nation alliance and a trading relationship that is still incredibly healthy, despite the narrative about President Trump.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I think he bears a certain degree of responsibility for that himself, because he likes to talk. He used to like to talk about throwing NAFTA overboard. So, and he kept people in doubt that way. But I think quite early in the administration, they decided that, no, we're not going to abandon the NAFTA. I think when Sonny Perdue came to the Oval Office and explained that Mexico was such an important importer of our agricultural products, and I think at that point we determined the interests at stake were too large and that we were going to continue to try and find some way to work this thing out. It took a long time, but I took some encouragement from the fact that the negotiations kept on going, because it meant to me, look, if they weren't serious, they would have dropped this thing a long time ago. But they were, and here we are. I hope we do sign it today, because I wouldn't want to be confronted with the fact of a new president in Mexico, and for him to have to consider, and he made clear to Mr. Trump that, look, I'll go along with this provided my predecessor signs it.
Ambassador, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ambassador John Negroponte joining us there.